Hello everyone, it's the Preacher coming back for a brand new episode in a new-ish type of setting. I hope to kind of figure out the lighting and stuff and situation, and my thing's kind of crooked. That's okay though. It reads Vanity of Vanities, if, can't feed or something, I don't know. So today's episode specifically is about one of my favorite books of the Bible. It's Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is specifically thought of to be written by Solomon, as you'll see why. Although it does not mention the writer by name, it does point in that direction. And it falls right in the middle of the books of wisdom, which I talked about before in an earlier video. It's right between the books of history and the books of the prophets. It's rather nice book. It's a rather short book that you could probably read in just an evening, probably just in one setting. It's only about 12 very short chapters. And the whole idea of Ecclesiastes is how God is the only thing that can fulfill your life. And right here at the beginning, it gives an introduction. It says, "The words of the preacher," and that's actually one part that got into my name, that went in the name of my persona online, is the preacher. It comes from this along with a few other things. But it says, "The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun?" So right here we have three of the biggest phrases used in the book of Ecclesiastes. The first one is vanity, which basically means empty. The second one is vanity of vanities, which basically just means empty of empties, or the uttermost empty. It basically means it's not just empty, it's just completely not satisfactory to the soul. And it also says under the sun. It says, what profit had a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? And under the sun basically meaning anything that is not walking with God, just any physical act without God in it. And going through, there's a lot of knowledge that a lot of people would take to heart nowadays, but there's a lot that a lot of people would reject in the modern society. And one of the biggest ones is vanity after great accomplishments. It says in chapter 2, it talks about, "I made me great works, I builded me houses, I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards, I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and also have servants born in my houses, and I have great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me." So it also goes down and just talks about how he increased Jerusalem's size, and eventually says that, he says, "Then I looked on all the works that my hands have wrought, and on the labor that I have labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of the spirit, and there was no profit under the sun." And so he's basically saying, I went out and I did all these great things, and nothing comes from it. Because at the end of the day, those great works don't do anything for you. Another big one is vanity in wealth. He hits on this several times. Let's see here. It says, "There's an evil which I have seen under the sun." This is at the beginning of chapter 6. It says, "And it is common among men, a man to whom God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and is an evil disease." He says, there's so many people with wealth, but they don't have God, and that destroys them in the end. He hits on this in many places. He talks about how wealth makes your life difficult. It brings hardship into your life. Another big one is vanity after hard labor. He talks about this in chapter 2, starting in verse 18. He talks about going out and laboring and working and doing all these things, and he says, it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. No matter how much you work, it doesn't really do much for you. However, another big one This is probably the biggest one that I've seen in this one towards me, especially, is vanity directed towards knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom is vanity. And that even starts way back in chapter 1. It says, I, the preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under the sun. This sore travail. I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking so much today. It says, I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. I communed with mine own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to a great estate, and I have gone more wisdom than all that have been in before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart has great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is vexation of spirit. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. So basically, the preacher is saying here, I went out and I studied things, and I became more wise than anyone who has ever come before me in Israel. He's basically saying, I know more than anyone ever has before me, and yet it's still not doing anything for me. I'm so intelligent, and it's worthless to me. Also, if you know the story of Solomon, God asks him at one point in time, what do you want? And Solomon says, wisdom to rule a nation. So God does give him this wisdom. So part of that wisdom does come from God. This is also talked about later on in the 9th chapter. This is a big one to me. It says, once again, it says, This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me. There was a little city, and a few men were in. And there came a great king against it, and he besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no man remembered that same poor man. Then said I, Wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of wise men are heard in quiet more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good. So in this case, the preacher is comparing wisdom to actual physical strength. And he does say, wisdom can get you out of more things than actual strength can. Specifically he says wisdom is better than weapons of war. It says if you are intelligent, if you use your wisdom, you can outfight weapons. And it's true, not just in war, but in day-to-day life, that wisdom will typically get you further than a lot of other things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. As he points out, this old man, he saves this entire city, and no one remembers him. Although he used his wisdom for good, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything for him. So this last little bit is a big one. It says, But one sinner destroyeth much good. And this is very interesting. It's basically saying no matter how much good you build up, one sin, one person against it can really do a lot of damage, which is true. You can see this in every day-to-day things. I think I have 2 more things to say, and I'll be finishing up. This last one about wisdom is starting at the very beginning of chapter 10. It says, Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savour. So doth a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honour. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart is at his left. Yea, also, when he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him, and he saith to everyone that he is a fool. If the spirit of the ruler rise up against thee, leave not thy place for yielding, pacifieth great offences. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an air which proceedeth from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich set in low places. I have seen servants upon horses, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. He that diggeth a pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh in a hedge a serpent shall bite him. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt therewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereof. So, at the very end of the day, when it's talking about wisdom, it does say, wisdom, very nice, very good to have, it doesn't get you really anywhere. I do know that there's a verse in here, a very particular part that I really like. It basically says who's better off, the fool or the wise man. It says neither, because at the end of the day they both die, and that wisdom does nothing for them, which is very true. And to finish up, I think I'll finish off just in the 12th chapter, which is the last bit, and it says, let's see, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. That's the very beginning of 12th. And skipping down to verse 9, it says, moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed, and sought out, and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find out acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth. The words of the wise are as goads, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. And further, by these, my son, be admonished, and making many books there is no end, and much study is the weariness of the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of God. For God shall bring every work unto judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So at the end of the day, he says that the preacher, he returns back from, being this amazing king. He's knowledgeable, he's more wise than anyone's before, he's accomplished more things than anyone ever has, and he finishes it all off by saying, for fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So at the end of the day, no matter how wise you are, no matter how great you are, no matter how talented you are, Ecclesiastes basically says that at the end of the day doesn't result in anything. Because the only thing that matters is where you stand with God and how much you go for him. So I guess that's all I have for today. It is interesting to me. It'll be a great book if you want to just sit down and read one evening. It's rather short. I just hit my hand. But it's rather short. You can finish it in one sitting probably. I hope to do more videos about some of my favorite books of the Bible, and although they're all amazing, there's some that talks to me more than others, and this is just one of them. So come back for more. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.